Hello, I'm Cathy Morawski, and you're watching Chatting with Cathy show on Live One TV. I'm here with State Senator Joseph Addabbo, Democratic Party, for the 15th Senatorial District. Senator, could you please tell us the difference between a U.S. Senator and a state senator?
That is probably, Cathy, one of the most popular questions I do get, because
sure.
people call up a state senator thinking they're calling the U.S. senator because they need a recommendation for a military school, or they need help with a federal issue like an immigration issue or a passport issue. And my team, thankfully so, my staff team knows not to say no. We basically take the information and then work with our federal elected officials since it's a federal issue. A state senator has a district, like mine, 15th district, has 350,000 people in it. A U.S. senator represents the whole state, bigger district, it's
Right.
the whole state.
Right.
They work with the president and the House of Representatives on federal matters, while we work with the governor on the state level with the assembly. We do similar jobs. We're both the legislative branch of our respective levels of government, but they deal with federal issues and we deal with state issues. But that's the most confusing thing. People say, are you a senator? You must be a U.S. senator. And I say, thank you for the promotion. But no, I am a mere state senator.
So in New York City, how many state senators are there?
In New York State, there are 63.
Sorry.
There's
63?
63 state senators.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's based on representation.
Right, it's based on population. That's why the census is so important, because
Right.
we see where population
And
shifts.
I understand, aside from the senator, we lost a congressional seat
Right.
because of the census.
And we may lose another one. We'll see when the dust settles on the most recent census where we're at.
Wow. So what towns do you represent, more or less?
Starting in the south, it goes Rockaway Beach. I have the whole peninsula from Breezy Point to the east end, I guess, Far Rockaway. And then we go Broad Channel, Howard Beach, Ozone Park, a little bit of South Ozone Park, Woodhaven, Glendale, Maspeth, Middle Village, a little bit of Ridgewood, Regal Park, Forest Hills, and then I go up to Kew Garden and Kew Garden Hills.
That's a large area. Based on the census, I did do some research on the 15th Senatorial District,
Mm-hmm.
and you do represent 150 homes in my area.
There you go.
Not across the street from me.
I know. So
I know with the pandemic, you probably haven't been invited to a lot of civic meetings. I don't know if they're on Zoom, but
we hope they get back to in person soon.
we've been Zooming every month in my area. So if you're not busy tonight at 7
Oh, geez,
p.m.,
look at that. I get
there's
an
a
invite.
passcode for Zoom. Just one passcode, and you're in.
Okay, I will
If
take a look at it.
if you have, let's put it this way: if you have 15 minutes for 150 homes, I don't know who's going to be on. I
Now,
can't
Liberty
guarantee
Park-
you.
Now, Liberty Park, it's odd because that's Glendale, we all know, right? And Glendale is split between myself and Senator
Daenerys.
Daenerys.
Look at the map. He has
Exactly.
the 15th. He has a huge.
He actually,
You have this. This is you, and
Yeah.
he has
I
all
know.
of this.
I know,
You are this.
I know.
This little part.
We're gonna change that because
I hope so.
I love when zip codes are put in the same district. This way, constituents aren't confused on who their
Right.
elected is.
Right.
We are hoping that with the new district lines that come out of this current census, that we get to put communities back together. So Glendale should have one state senator, if it can.
Thank you.
It
We
should
agree.
be. So
We
that's what we're working.
definitely agree with
We're
town by
working on that.
town.
It's out of my hands,
Block by
but we are
block,
working on
that would be, like have a block of towns,
Right.
and this would be the representative, instead of having an ethnic demographic kind
it.
of
It should be
thing.
by zip code. It should keep the communities together. I don't like when districts bleed or get cut up.
My son even said, what the heck is this? It's like,
Yeah, we
it's
make
not
jokes on what
even-
districts look like. Somebody riding a horse, looks like a telephone,
It
whatever
looks
it is.
kind of like an octopus. I don't know
I like
what to
a nice
say.
little-
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. But
It shouldn't look like spin arc where people just,
but the districts. What was I going to say about the districts and the representation? Daenerys. My husband, when he was the president, 7 years ago, of our civic association, which we've been there since 1926. the Civic Association. We started because the neighbors didn't have water, no running water, and we all got together, not me, but the neighbors who were there since the beginning. Their grandchildren still live there, some of them, and some 3 generations that still live in that area because they still like good old-fashioned USA, and it's sad that we don't have a state senator that comes to our meetings because he's been writing letters to Generis for years, and Generis never comes.
Well, we'll correct that.
And he gets
after the
mailings.
census.
We get mailings. I get mailings. My sons get mailings.
Mm-hmm.
So his target market is the young voters and the women.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, hopefully we can address this so that people get the representation. I'd love to represent that area once again because I did so when I first got elected, as you remember. And I did.
And your previous senator.
And I went to Liberty Park. I used to go to those civic meetings.
I think you did.
I
way
did.
Back when.
I remember.
And our
nice
previous
your
senator
husband was
before,
the president.
and Senator Maltese before you.
Yes, I know.
I'll
get back
for
there.
years.
I'll get back there. We'll work this out.
I hope so.
We'll work this out.
I hope
Cathy,
so.
We'll work this out.
What was the next question? The next question was, our latest city problem with crime. There's all over the country. There's a lot of high crime in the large cities, and much has to do with the No Bail Reform Acts. In New York City, it was January 2020 that the No Bail Reform Acts were instituted. I printed out 4 pages of no bail reform, including starting with.
Right. So this was the original, which got implemented in January of 2020.
Right.
And because when we looked at the data, obviously, and I think the legislation was written too hastily, but it was put in a bigger budget bill.
That's for sure.
So what we did was we changed it. And
I hope so.
And so in April of 2020, just 4 months after it got implemented, we included over 10 bills, closer to 16 bills, crimes that are now bail eligible. We give judges more discretion to add bail.
Let's go back to January 2020. We have burglaries of all types. We have criminal controlled substance, possession of substances, stalking, aggravated vehicle assault, stalking. So all of this, no bail.
Well, not anymore. You see, again,
that's the way it was.
Then we changed it.
That's the way it was.
Right.
Okay, that's page 1. Page 2, custodial inference, coercion, criminal trespass, criminal, what's that? Mischief, criminal
basically
tampering.
Right.
Well, they're violent. They're the victims do not. Grand larceny. How would you like someone to steal $1,000 of your property?
Again, not violent. But here's the thing: when you look at something like this, now it gets changed in April, and what happens is, on the heels of that, the mayor dismantles the anti-crime unit. So really, if you look at this isn't the reason why we have gun violence. Gun violence was because the NYPD lost its anti-crime unit. The correlation between...
Well, that's part of it.
The correlation between the 205% increase in gun violence was direct correlation time frame-wise with the anti-crime unit being dismantled. So if you look at that, that is a major contributor, more so than this, to the gun violence which we're experiencing now. When you look at this also with bail reform, we're finding out that this has to work if the judges give bail when bail is eligible. If you find a judge that's not giving bail or remanding bail when eligible, that's a problem. So when we evaluate the changes that we did in the bail reform back in April of 2020, now we're talking a year ago, right? We're trying to figure out if judges are following suit in issuing bail when they're able to. So this is the data that we're looking at now that has to be accurate data to make a valid decision whether this is okay or does this need to be amended once again. Remember, we amended bail, so we've shown that we have the ability and the desire at times to amend bail when we need to. So because we've done it before, we can do it again if we need to. But I think better days ahead for NYPD, who doesn't get the respect that I think they deserve. And I think better days ahead with a new mayor, because I've seen this mayor.
Oh, boy.
Right.
Do we
I've
knew a
seen,
new mayor?
this mayor obviously.
I think everyone agrees on
Tinker
that
with the
one.
police department that, again, we're seeing the statistics, we're seeing the videos. We're all seeing it. We're all seeing the videos of people getting shot in broad
You
daylight.
need a
and
new
everything
mayor that sees eye to
And
eye
it's coming.
with
Right.
the law enforcement.
Yeah,
It didn't help. It was
Right.
a bad recipe for
So-
chaos. There's
So
too
in my
many,
opinion,
too
Eric
many.
Adams, a former police officer who knows that, he knows the statistics.
I knew
as
you
we've-
would. I knew you would.
So the bottom line is, hopefully better days ahead for NYPD. And I think that's really the direction we're headed, I think. There's still a November election that we have to go by, but, hopefully, like I said, I think better days ahead.
Do you think he'd be a good role model for some criminals?
Role model for criminals? I don't know about that.
Maybe
I think
he
he'd be a
can
good role model
relate
for
to
many.
them. Maybe he can relate to them.
Listen, I think, most mayors have to relate to everyone they represent. And so therefore,
Being
if he's
that
going to be tough on crime.
he grew up in a modest
maybe.
upbringing. He was a
Maybe.
CUNY student,
Sure.
but he
To stop someone before they commit the crime, so that if they're at a crossroads,
He
a
did get in
pathway,
trouble. He did
know.
get in trouble with the police once.
Mhm.
I mean,
maybe he's a role model,
this
sure.
is a roadway.
Mhm.
Other kids might look up to him and say, well, if he got in trouble,
Right, so before.
maybe I can turn around.
Right, before they go down that wrong path, maybe he, as a role model, puts them on the right path. We can only hope.
We can only hope.
Because this mayor can't do that.
We can only hope because last year it was a recipe for chaos.
Yeah.
Everything that was going on, everything between the No Bail Reform Act, Rikers Island, they want to close. The mayor not being seen eye to eye with the police having no incentive to arrest.
Right.
A slap of the wrist in the lecture, and you're free to go.
See, yeah, I think we're moving under this mayor, we're moving in the wrong direction, in my opinion. Closing of Rikers, instead of fixing Rikers, instead of finding a problem and fixing
Thank
it.
you. I agree with you.
Instead of taking one problem and distributing it
Why
among 4
is there
boroughs.
not drug? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Is there any drug rehab in Rikers?
There are these programs, drug rehab, what do I hear? Alcohol, sure. They exist, but the question is, are they efficient? Are they working to their optimum level? If not, let's fix them. And if it is at Rikers, let's do it at Rikers, because the idea is Rikers is a one identifiable issue. Why spread that issue over 4 boroughs? Staten Island being excluded.
So there
these
is right
programs,
now
they do
drug
exist.
rehab.
They do exist.
There is alcohol group
Yeah.
discussions. Do they have like?
All these are
Oh.
rehabilitative programs, and they all
Okay.
exist. Psychiatric, sure, they all exist. The question is, do we evaluate them and make sure they're successful? Are they deemed doing their intended mission? If they're not, fix it. And I don't think that this mayor is more intent about fixing this. He's more intent about closing Rikers and building these multi-million-dollar,
Doesn't make
billion-dollar.
sense. Doesn't make
It
sense.
does not.
It's
So-
just like It's just.
The only
like
thing I can
the-
say is that closing of
Yeah.
Rikers and building 4 of the jails is not going to happen in the next 6 months in which Mayor de Blasio is still going to be around. This is a project that left to the next mayor, and we'll have to discuss it with the next mayor.
We have to only pray that the next mayor
And work
will
at it.
say,
Prayers.
hell no,
Prayers help.
we're not going
But
to,
it's
I'm
all
not
about-
going to do this.
It's all about facts and figures. If we can show the facts that, why are we going to increase the possibility of crime in these other areas where there's going to be a jail, when we can just fix Rikers and invest there, probably cost efficiently too, because fixing Rikers is going to cost far less than building 4 brand new jails. So this is an issue that we're going to deal with. I personally will deal with with the next mayor,
I totally agree with you,
as usual. Thank you.
as usual.
Thanks, guys.
But
this-
I mean, I have to get back to this grand larceny thing. I mean, it's like, I've been a victim myself.
Yeah, so
my son's been a victim.
when we look at grand
I
larceny,
was a burglary victim. My house was burglarized. I was personally robbed myself.
Mhm.
I have a phobia of black men with black ski men. Well, I'm sorry, not black men. They were probably white. They had black
the
ski
covering
mask.
covering, sure.
They had
You know-
black ski masks. That commercial with the man with the black ski mask?
Right.
Every time I see that commercial, I have to look away
Mm.
because I have this phobia. of getting robbed
Right.
again. And it didn't happen in Glendale. It happened in Flushing when they had they had a robbery ring. They were tying up people. They were threatening them with guns. They threatened me. What they said was a gun. I wasn't about to challenge two grown men. They could have either beat the hell out of me. The police captains, when the entire police department ended up in my living room, the police captain said, "You are so lucky they didn't rape you."
And thankfully, you're here to tell the story.
I'm here to tell the story.
It should happen
But they
anyway.
robbed me. They
Right.
robbed our house. They robbed a lot of our jewelry. They
Right.
broke our back door. And they didn't kill me.
You see, that's why previous to this administration, we had a police department that looked at certain sources or where the crime originated from, investigative work that stopped the crime before it got to the street. They don't have that as much anymore. And so we need to get the police back to doing investigations where they could stop the crime before it gets to the street, giving the police officers the resources they need in terms of personnel. Exactly. So it's not about how much we give the police, but how they spend it, and we give them better resources. That stops the crime before it gets to the street. Right now, we're seeing
Getting to the subject of funding the police,
Sure.
but funding them properly, because
Exactly
they
right.
also need some training. They need sensitivity training. They need to know the difference between someone who's on drugs and someone who's mentally disturbed.
Right.
And that takes some some practice, a lot of video to see the difference. I've just heard complaints from people that have children that are mentally disturbed, and they've been mistreated by police. And it's not has nothing to do with color. A lot of white people have been.
Yeah. This is an issue that you can go to any part of either my district or the city and talk about this issue of crime and public safety, and this is a major issue on the minds of many. But if you ask most, they would tell you that yes, a difference of procedure, a difference of policy, administrative change to the NYPD needs to happen, and I think they're looking at the next mayor not to do that. And I think that's the right way to go. I think there needs to be a different policy. To your point, mental versus the physical aspect of an issue that needs to be addressed.
And the homeless shelters, which you totally agreed with me. And
Yeah.
I got you on video.
Yeah, no,
You
I
guys
agree.
remember the whole
warehousing
PS
of
119
people.
thing?
Yeah.
You agree.
Yeah.
You were the one who said they should put them in hotels in Manhattan. We sure as heck would prefer them in Manhattan. Some hotels not bothering
During
us.
COVID, certainly.
During COVID.
But I always said that we needed smaller homeless shelters. We can't do these 200 men, women.
Right.
It just doesn't work. And we're seeing it here in Glendale. It doesn't
We're seeing
work.
it here in Glendale, and,
Yeah.
they're loitering on Etzel Avenue. They're lying down on the ground. All these alcoholics on the ground.
Which again, we
They're-
didn't see during the previous
I don't
administration.
think it's safe.
But we
on
didn't see
Glendale.
that before. We're seeing an administration that can't handle it, and so we need to go back to how do we help these individuals? Give them an apartment, the cluster apartments. Give them an apartment
I
with
agree.
a bathroom, a kitchen, and a bedroom. Give them the services, mental or physical, that they need to get back on their feet or get the mental help they need. But this is what we need to do, go back to, as opposed to seeing them in our subways, on the street corners, and something that we really haven't seen before. These
Right.
individuals need help. So before they become an issue for our community residents and they got to call the police department and whatever, let's get these individuals help. Let's get them into the right housing, which are smaller housing that actually has a kitchen, unlike a hotel room that has no kitchen. So the idea is, again, a difference of policy and different administrative approach to something different than this current
It's
administration.
very bad it's very hard to rehabilitate someone who's been on drugs for many years and someone who's an alcoholic and having to go through their whole withdrawal. But someone who's mentally, somebody who has bipolar, for instance,
They gotta get the treatment and
they need treatment. They
Exactly.
need
The
group
attention and
therapy.
help,
They
right.
need personal therapy.
Exactly. They need
and,
the help
and
that
that's
they-
not available. That's not available
Under this
for
administration,
people
it's been a problem.
who do not
Yep.
have the money.
Mhm.
They don't have health care. And they're being thrown into these homeless shelters. And statistically, it's like 1/3 of them are mentally, they either cannot hold a job because they're mentally not able to. They could be harmless, but there are other ones who scare the hell out of us and throw you under a train.
Yeah. Again,
And
the programs they need.
it's scary.
It is. And so therefore they need the help that they can get if they need, obviously, the mental or physical help, and then obviously helping them train to get it back to the workforce so they can provide for themselves or their family. Now, obviously, this is an issue, major issue for the next administration. But this is what we deal with every day. This is what we deal with here in the office. And I have a great staff that deals with it. We never closed during the pandemic. Our offices were always open for the pandemic because these are the issues that exist. The pandemic, doesn't dictate.
Well, you got 3 desks, you got 4 desks here, and you got
They're all
3.
working.
They're all working.
Yep.
They're working all year?
They work all year.
Wow.
Yeah, so the district offices work all year. The Albany offices do work all year, but January to June is our legislative session, and then June to December, we plan for the next session. Whereas the district office, 12 months out of the year, we do the constituent work here.
Sounds
And
great.
that's why you're here.
That's great.
See that?
One last thing while I have your ear.
Okay.
Because I'm an advocate not just for public safety, because I've been on the public safety committee
Yes.
since '03. My slogan, got a couple of slogans. One of them is more cops on the beat, less crime on the street, which I invented years ago. Okay, but
Very
we
good.
had to have the right cops. We had to have them trained more than 6 weeks. Is it 6 weeks trained?
I'm not sure, but
Something like that.
I got
So
you.
we need them months and months of training before they get out of the academy. I'm a number one
that's going to
advocate
be
for
one
them.
of your things as with the
Oh,
new mayor.
absolutely.
Train our
But
cops, I
not
get
just
it.
training our police officers, but training our children.
Yeah.
Public school and private school. Did you go to private school?
I did.
So did I.
See that?
So we know the
Those
complete
nuns.
curriculum. We have so much in common,
We
you
do.
and I. Did you know that we're the same age?
No. Is that true?
You were born
Hope the camera
in
makes us
May
look-
64, and I was
Yes.
born in March of 64.
Nice. So you beat me.
I beat you by
Gotta
2 whole
respect my
months.
elders.
2 months. So I'm the old lady of this interview.
You look great. You look great.
Thank you.
But
you
yeah,
too.
we got a lot of work ahead, and that's why I want to say thank you, because you're so involved in the community, and I want to say thank you. It's been a real pleasure working with you over the 12 years I've been a state senator. And I look forward to working with you for the sake of others, right? We do our work in the community for the sake of others, so I want to say thank you publicly. See,
It's
on
always
record
been a
now.
pleasure. Oh,
It's
and
on
I
record.
wanted to thank you personally for the recommendation letter that you did. No hesitations, because when I was looking for extra work, you said, sure, I'll write you a recommendation letter.
My pleasure, Cathy. My pleasure.
But there's one equation that I think is very important when it comes to education, and that's something that you and I had, that these kids, these underprivileged kids, these gangs did not have. And they were, and you had both your parents, right?
Mhm.
And your mom, was she at home or was she working?
She was home.
She was home.
Yeah.
My mom was home too.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids in gangs, they don't have a father.
Yeah.
And their moms, if they are trying as heck to get them out of the ghetto, it's very hard because they are what you call, and this is a big discussion in public safety, lock and key children.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 p.m., that's a major question. What are these children doing after 3 p.m.?
Yeah.
There is no control of them.
Mm-hmm.
If their parents aren't texting them and saying, are you doing your homework?
Right.
A lot of them, some of them don't care.
Yeah.
If they don't come home and
I
show
remember-
initiative of
Right.
what they're doing with their homework.
Right. I remember when I was in the city council, we really funded well after-school programs, so that after 3, for the working parents to know that their children are still in school doing something, we had after-school programs.
I knew you had something to say about this. Go ahead.
And I think that's funding well allocated. After-school programs, libraries that are open again. The pandemic, ceased our libraries to be open, but nevertheless, when we get post-pandemic, hopefully really soon, that we can reopen our libraries, because libraries do have an opportunity to have after-school children come in, do their homework programs there too. So
It's great.
So between the libraries and the after-school programs and any other programs outside of those two, I think that's what is partly needed to keep these younger residents, let's say, active, involved in the community, but
Right.
just active, without the idle time. So I'm hoping as we go forward as a city and a state that we can refund even more so, reallocate more so these funds for after-school programs and library programs to keep these children active and these younger residents active. I think that's something that Eric Adams said as well.
It's a very important equation. It gets to the equation of good parents plus good teachers equal good students. And if there's something missing in that equation...
If there's a father missing or a mother missing...
What was Eric Adams' equation?
But if there's somebody
no
missing...
education, incarceration. Well, and he said there shouldn't be any slogans. There should be the right slogans, and they should be positive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, knowledge is power.
Okay. Did you coin that one too? That one of yours?
No. If you remember, when we were kids and we used to watch the cartoon, remember knowledge is power?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so true. I mean, the 3 R's. You have to know your reading, your writing, your arithmetic, and the importance. There should be commercials. There should be public safety commercials saying why should you know your 3 R's.
Yeah. I think it's very important.
And
we'll go back to that. That's basic stuff.
And one last thing that I wanted to do a public safety commercial for, and then we're working with it with Live1.tv, and that is pedestrian safety tips. And I already spoke to it with Officer Michael Baresh.
Yeah, excellent.
And he said, you're right on cue on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the guys at DOT, because he went to a See, you weren't part of the DOT walkthrough because...
Can't be everywhere.
I know.
I try, really do try.
If you come tonight, we'll tell you what that was about.
I'll give it a shot. Pleasure,
Okay.
Cathy, always.
Okay, it was a pleasure.
Well, okay, sure, we'll be safe.
We'll do the COVID.
Sure, whatever.
Okay, this is me
Thank you very
signing
much,
off.
everyone. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.